This is the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Kendall of the notaballerina.com travel blog. Every episode I'll share travel tales from several fellow travel lovers, and together we hope to entertain and inspire you, remind you of some of your own great travel experiences, and encourage you to hit the road again soon. Hello and welcome to episode 142 of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. It's about why getting lost is fun. You might think that's a strange title, but if you think back on the times when you've got lost when you're traveling, or in fact in any situation, most of the time it might have been not super fun at the time, but it turns out to be a funny story, a good memory, and, something that you don't really regret happening. There are very occasional times when getting lost might not have such a happy ending, but I reckon 99% of the time, getting lost is fun. And the guests who I chat with today, I think, would have to agree with me. Now, as you might know, I'm fresh off the plane back from Copenhagen in Denmark. And I have at the time, not so funny, but in retrospect, quite funny story about getting lost. So on our final morning in Copenhagen, we had to go and pick up our rental car because we were heading west into rural Denmark for the week. And so, of course, and I'd kind of known this all week, but didn't really know how to solve it. Of course, the morning when we had to pick up our rental car from the city centre, a convenient walk from our Airbnb, I'd carefully planned this. But of course, I didn't know that the Copenhagen Marathon would be taking place at that time. I did know once we got to Copenhagen because at the apartment building there was a nice sign explaining the boundaries of where all the roads would be closed and everything. It was in Danish, but I managed to use my German and English knowledge to figure it out because it's quite handy, actually. Danish isn't so hard to understand if it's written down and German and English. Anyway, so I had come to the conclusion that yes, we were going to have some issues, but I couldn't quite figure out a way to solve it, so I just kind of ignored it because what else can you do? When I really looked at it, I did think, oh my goodness, maybe we should pick up the car the night before. But I thought of this the night before and I quickly looked up the hire company's opening times and they were already closed. So off we went. So I got to the rental car place and nice young man served us. And actually, as a side note, he tried to upgrade me he tried to incentivize me to upgrade to a bigger car because he asked what our plans were and I told him and he said, oh, if I was driving so far, I would need a bigger car. And I said to him, I'm come from Australia. The distance I'm driving is like a quick walk in the park. Don't worry, we'll be fine. And we were fine. We didn't even use more than half a tank of petrol in our week-long traverse of Denmark because it's a pretty small place and we had a nice, small, good car. Anyway, so we picked up the car and it's the marathon. So my son's in the back seat. He's a great navigator, as it turns out. However, of course, the GPS doesn't know that the Copenhagen Marathon is on. And here I am remembering how to drive a manual car, remembering how to drive on the opposite side of the road to what we do here in Australia. So trying to get used to all of this stuff and remember what I had vaguely read about Danish road rules. And everywhere we turn, it's a dead end because the roads are closed for the marathon. So I'm trying to tell my son, okay, let's see if we just needed to go further north and further west. And we thought we could eventually find a way around where they would have begun the marathon. And we could then do a long route round to our Airbnb where we needed to pick up our luggage. And he was doing a good job of this, even though, of course, the GPS kept telling us to go down places that we couldn't go. He's ignoring that. At one stage, we went down a place and it was a sudden dead end. And then I needed to reverse. And I could not figure out how to get this manual car into reverse. I've, tried pushing down the gear stick, lots of different options, and I could see where they said R was, but it didn't work. And eventually we got out and we're just sitting there in the car, got out the manual, and my son said, oh, see that silver bit on it? You have to pull that up and then you can push it down and then it goes in reverse. So he had managed to figure that out from a Danish manual. Thank goodness he was there. Anyway, so that was all a bit chaotic. I was getting a bit stressed by this time. And eventually we came across a lovely man. I don't know who he is, and I'm very grateful for him, who we chatted to, he was one of the people, at the barriers of the roads where there was an actual kind of a person there in a vest, so an officialish kind of person, and he understood our plight. And he said, "Oh, well, it's actually 15 minutes before the runners come here. I can let you drive across this street." I was like, "Oh my goodness, thank you, thank you." And so he pulled back all the barriers on both sides, and off we drove happily, and we navigated our way back around. And so, we were really lost. We had no idea where we were by this stage, but we got home. And although it was a bit stressful at the time, now for me, funny story. And my son thinks it's a great story because he was the hero of figuring out how to get in reverse and do all the navigating. So well done to Mr. Nine. Anyway, let's get on to the 3 guests today who also have fun stories of getting lost. My first guest is Lucas Peters, who actually has a particularly interesting approach to intentionally getting lost.
I purposely, every time I go to a new destination, I try my best to get lost. Usually I'm pretty successful. That's the kind of good part. But, I find that when you arrive to a new place, one of the best ways to explore it is to, kind of get over that fear of getting lost, get out of that kind of pickle of, oh, I'm trying to go here and go there and see this site and that site, and the other site. And, and there's my son. Yeah, that's peanut. So, one of the things about traveling for me is that if, you can arrive to a new place and you're not obsessed with seeing that one monument or going to that one museum. If you can have that one day where you're just going to, hey, I'm going to just experience this place and get entirely lost. I find that a great way to get a little bit more kind of immersed in culture on arrival, as quickly as possible.
Oh, so even intentionally, on your first day or whatever in a destination, that's when you kind of just wander.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my, if I was going to say one story, pardon me. Oh, so I guess the one story I can think of off the top of my head that always strikes me is the Medina of Fez. A lot of us have experienced the Medina of Fez. And when I moved to Morocco in 2009, Fez was the first real city I got to know there. I was living in a little village about an hour away from Fez. And, I did this weekend trip into Fez. And the Medina, that's this old city that's been there, for over 1,000 years, more or less kind of in the same form, but it's been expanding. But, it's still the world's, as far as I know, it's the world's largest pedestrian-only urban zone.
Oh, awesome.
So there's, 150, 200,000 people, I think, still living in the Fez Medina. And you might see a couple scooters here and there, but for the most part, it's just walking, donkeys, horses, push carts, this kind of thing. And it's a real maze. There's not a lot of street signs. A lot of the passages you go through, they call them streets is almost a misnomer. I mean, really, it's more like passages. There's maybe 2 streets that are wide enough where you could walk 4 people wide. But most of them, you're squeezing 1, maybe 2 people, down some of these little alleyways. Oh, it is. It's incredible. And I spent my first time I got to Fez, I said, hey, I'll just figure this out. It happened to be a Friday, and Friday is a particularly quiet day in Morocco, as it's a Muslim country, and Friday's a little like their Sunday. A lot of things are closed.
Right.
So the Medina was as ghostly and quiet as you'll ever see it, and I was utterly lost for 4 hours with nary a soul in sight.
Oh gosh!
And it was wonderful, because when I did actually run across some people with my very, very beginning Arabic and pretty bad French, I managed to strike up some conversations, get to know kind of the way out a little bit, and get to have this. I remember one. He's I still know him today. Mohammed. He's a potter down in the Fez Medina. Has a nice little store down there. And that was the first time I met Mohammed, and it was, a brief in passing thing. And he just kind of pointed me in the direction, and I happened to see him the next day. And then we got to talking, and, of course we had, mint tea and everything. And, here it is. That was 2009. And here it is 9 years later. And I still have this guy on my WhatsApp. And every time in Fez, we catch up, grab a tea, and we both have 2-year-old boys.
Oh,
so we talk about our 2-year-old boys now.
Gorgeous. Oh, that's wonderful.
So, I mean, Yeah, I mean, these are the only kind of things that you can like. That for me, this is the one of the ways in which I think you can have a totally like real moment. Like in a new place, in an utterly foreign place to you.
Yeah, just throw yourself in. Don't know what you're doing. Yeah, chat to the locals and you'll figure it out. And it's a really gorgeous way to get to know a place. I love it.
Yeah, and it's kind of my rule. Day one, get lost. Yeah. And it's worked so far. As a travel writer, I find that's a great way to also orient myself. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm always gonna end up pulling on a map eventually, or if I have a GPS or something, maybe I'll use that. So I'll always end up kind of working my way out of wherever I am. I mean, in today's age, it's hard to get absolutely lost, but it's nice to have that sensation, I think, and it's nice to like force yourself to, talk to other people, even if you don't share a language, and kind of get the most you can out of that first day. And then, go see the monuments and sites and all that later.
Some of which you may have stumbled across already on your Getting Lost day.
Of course. Yeah, of
which
course.
would be even better.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in like 2001, my first time in Paris, I was taking a walk, and as one does, just kind of, meander the streets of Paris and all that. And I remember I came around a corner and I was like, oh, that's the Eiffel Tower. Like I absolutely hadn't seen it. And then, I mean, and it was like maybe a block and a half away from it. Here's this
wonderful.
looming iron structure. And, I was like, oh, wow, that's, yeah, there it is. So
I definitely am in Paris.
Yeah, definitely didn't lose myself out of that city. Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous. Oh, I really love that attitude. I'm fairly good at getting lost, even unintentionally. But I think getting lost intentionally is a great way to explore a new place.
Yeah. What did I tell my wife? I told my wife, if you're never lost, how can you find yourself?
Oh, very profound. I love it.
And this is, I don't know how profound it is, but that's the idea, because a lot of us we're kind of traveling to find something else externally and internally. And I think for me, like it operates in that manner where you're kind of at once discovering externally, and on the other hand, hopefully uncovering something about yourself internally.
Now, I've never done exactly this kind of I'm going to go in here and get lost idea, but I think I'm going to try it sometime because it does appeal to me. As long as I do have a map and, well, probably, let's be honest with myself, a phone with the GPS, so that when I decided I'm finished getting lost, that I am able to get home, because I'm actually quite good at getting lost unintentionally. I don't have the best sense of direction, so I do want to be able to find my way home afterwards. But yeah, I think it is a special experience, and you can have lots of special different discoveries when you just wander. Now, my second guest today is Michela Fantinel, and she is also very philosophical about the idea of getting lost when we travel.
Getting lost, I think, is very much of travel. It's something that it belongs to it. And it's probably, I call it in a different way. It's probably the most spontaneous part of travel, because we plan, and I'm also someone who plans everything because I like not to do any planning when I'm traveling. So I want to I want to know everything before I get there. I plan a lot, but I leave much out to spontaneity as well. So I want to have those kind of situation when you don't know what you're doing, you're just wandering off and just want to go to places. That's the best part of it. But sometimes you don't really, obviously, you don't think that you're getting lost somewhere. And I had a few occasions where I got lost, especially in Australia. It's easy to get lost in isolated places.
Oh, yes.
But again, what I've noticed is that when you get lost, in my personal experience, is that I never felt really so terrified or whatever, or worried, or it's just, okay, I'm lost. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, sometimes I had a nice story on York Peninsula in Australia. I was driving. It was a maze of, small little roads and completely isolated. And I had to find a place, and there was nothing was there. I didn't know where I was going. So I had the address and everything, but like in Australia, they put something in a different way, or they just put the signboard, in the other direction or whatever.
Yes.
So I was completely lost, and I was going up and down by car, and then I just bumped into this beautiful yellow field. And it was a beautiful day. I had a deep blue sky, and this huge yellow field of, I think it was rapeseed oil,
canola, probably, yeah.
Canola oil. It was all yellow, but I think it was
beautiful.
that one. Beautiful. And all of a sudden I see a family of alpaca, the alpaca.
Oh, yes.
Ones.
Oh.
So it was black, blue, yellow. I completely forgot all about being lost. I just got off the car and I was taking photos, and they were not shy at all. They was just coming to the fence, and they were so cute. And so, and then after that, I was thinking about this, and I thought this was just serendipity. Those things just happen in an awkward situation when you are trying to find your place, your accommodation, you can't find, and you just bump into this beautiful scenario, and you're just there, you're just engrossed in this beauty. And so I still have those photos. When I look at those photos, I think of what happened with a car getting lost. And the thing was that nobody was there, and I was just hoping that someone was, driving past, and I thought, if someone could. And then all of a sudden a car came. It was one of the very few, and I was just waving at them, and they stopped, and I said, I'm lost. And they said, we too.
Oh no. Oh, that's not very helpful.
And then I said, oh, where are you from? Are you from Australia? Yeah, we are Australians, but we are not from here. We are lost. And then they said, where are you going to? Maybe we can help. I'm looking for this place. And they were looking, and I said, I think it's very close. And then they were just telling me, try to go that way. They were probably, they had probably, Australians, they know better than Europeans how to find your way again.
I don't know.
And then it was exactly how they thought. They said, they have to go down that one. It's probably taking to the main road. Okay. And I did it, and it was fantastic. But they were so cheerful and happy and smiling. Not really, as I said, it's very, very typical of Australia.
I'm happy that you have those experiences here.
I don't know whether you have been to York Peninsula.
No,
it's
I haven't.
Beautiful there.
Yes, I'd love to go. Yeah.
But it's really completely isolated. You have, villages around the coast, and I was on a very, very far end of it was called, what was the name? Corner something, close to a lighthouse. Very few houses there. Very few, very isolated. And the following days I was getting lost again, but I was not finding my way. I was just going back to the starting point and finding the main road, all gravel roads, not really for four-wheel drive. You can drive with a normal car, but not as just, but I was, it was pretty much an experience. And
that
I
sounds
think
fun.
it is fun, and I think you take it more lightly than when you think about getting lost.
Yes.
Because when you just imagine of getting lost in a place, you just start panicking and you think, oh no, what I'm going to do. But then when you are just in the situation, things are much easier, and you come up with solutions or whatever. And you just, it's just that your, how do you say, survival way of doing things, or it's the instincts, just the instincts that are telling you what to do, and they're pointing you into the right direction. So I think that getting lost is a great part of travel, and probably the most funny part, because you also see how you react. You see yourself in these situations. You want to. Or whenever something happens, with a car, when I travel by myself, always something happens with a car, that the car is not, not doing what I want to do, or get stuck with the gear or whatever. I had all different kinds of situation. So I think that it's part of it, and it's part of the adventure. And yes, it's something that I really like it.
Having heard from Michela how beautiful the York Peninsula is, that's in South Australia, and I've explored a few bits of South Australia, but not that one. But now I want to go there and get lost and find her alpacas. It sounds so gorgeous. But it's, as she said, getting lost very nearly always turns into a memorable story. You see something different, you meet someone new. It's all good. Now, my final guest today is Erin Holmes, and Erin and I chatted about several getting lost incidents. I have to admit, we even got a bit lost in our conversation as we kind of got down a little path talking about some of the crazy big things you might see around the world, because sometimes you'll just stumble across them, a bit like the way Lucas stumbled across the Eiffel Tower. Anyway, Erin, like my other guests, has a happy memory of most of her getting lost moments.
Oh, there was this one time in America. It was a stupid thing, but we went the wrong way and we ended up in front of this giant can of Campbell's tomato soup. Now, Australia's pretty well known for all its big things. We have like the big pineapple and the big mango and the big sheep. But like, I didn't even know America did those things. We ended up going down this wrong street and we were out front of the Campbell's factory and they had this massive soup can. So I was actually pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I would be excited about that. That sounds awesome. Lots of pictures needed. But you'd be surprised by it when you come around the corner and suddenly there's a giant can of soup.
Yes. They have some big green guy there too. They're obsessed with only food ones though. That's all there is.
Yes. I always think of Australia as being king of the big things, but we do really silly ones. Maybe they just do food.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go see the big mango this year. I've been dying to see that.
Where is the big mango? That's one I haven't seen.
The Whitsundays.
Oh, is it? Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, I hope you enjoy. Can you go inside the big mango?
I don't know, but Canada has a big apple that you can go inside.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And it's got like a spiral staircase and you can go up to the top of the apple. And they sell amazing apple pies there.
Oh, good. Oh, good. So they should. Oh, that's hilarious. I remember visiting the big banana is that at Coffs Harbour or somewhere near there?
Yes.
Yes, and a few things like that. We have a big ram not too far from here. But, yeah, there's
the ram's in WA.
Isn't there a ram in Merredin, I think it is?
Is it?
I think so.
Oh, I need to make a list and tick them all off.
Yes. We just need to do a big things tour. I think I'm right on the ram or Merredin. I'll have to double check. But yes. Big things are a bit crazy. So
yeah.
Cool. So getting lost is not really something you fear. It's something you embrace.
Yes, definitely. That's a good way of putting it. I mean, there can be scary times when you get lost, especially with kids, but it's not scary because I'm afraid I'm going to go into a wrong area. It's scary because my kids are tired and they just wanted to go home.
Yes.
And you're like, they're going to have a meltdown in the middle of the street.
Oh, absolutely. I have had a few of those exact moments myself, yeah. Because if you're just adults and you are getting a bit lost and taking a bit longer to find somewhere, it's not so tragic. But
yes.
If you're
hangry, then it gets
it can be tragic. You're quite right. But if you've got your kids along, then that can be quite the challenge.
There was one time where we were in Israel and we were driving to the Dead Sea and we took a wrong turn and we ended up driving towards the Gaza Strip. And I remember that was probably the scariest lost moment I had because we were like, turn the car around.
Oh, no.
Like, we didn't want to be going that way.
No. Oops.
That was a bit scary. Oh, and there was this other time in KL where we missed, in Kuala Lumpur, we were on the way to, they have an elephant sanctuary there. And so we were going down the freeway and we missed our exit. And the only reason I'm telling you this is because the next exit was not for 25 kilometres.
Oh, no.
It was a 50-kilometre round trip for a exit. That was not a fun time to get lost.
No, that's not. Oh, how frustrating. That's a really long way between exits.
I know. Not when all you've got your kids in the car and all you want to do is go see elephants and you're like, by the way, we're going to drive another hour now.
Ooh, yeah, no, that's terrible. Oh my gosh. I will pay special attention if I'm ever doing that little excursion. Gosh, wow. Yeah, no, that's not the kind of getting lost I enjoy.
Yeah.
Dear. Yeah, no, I do remember I remember one particular time when I was traveling just with my son in Vienna, and I don't know where we were going, but I distinctly remember he was thankfully still young enough to be in a stroller, because I quickly realised that I'd gone like 10 or 15 minutes walking in the wrong direction, like the opposite direction, and then we had to go back, all that way, plus the kind of 20 minutes walk to where we were supposed to be going, and I was just zooming him along because I knew he was already starving, but at least he didn't have to walk himself. But I was kind of, barreling along the sidewalk of Vienna, trying to get there as fast as possible before he started. I do have to reiterate that getting lost when it means that you've missed your exit and you have to drive 50 kilometres extra, that's not so fun, and probably not even fun in retrospect. But although, maybe one time you might do that and discover something completely unexpected. So who am I to judge? I also have to make a correction of what I said. I suggested that the giant, huge, big ram was in Merredin. It's nowhere near Merredin. Sorry to other Western Australians who knew better and were screaming at me. It's in Wagen, so really not even in the same part of WA, but still a big ram. And it's huge. Anyway, you might, I hope you don't get lost in the outback of Western Australia. It's not a really ideal place to get lost. You could run out of water and fuel, and so getting lost in the middle of a city or a Medina, the way Lucas did is probably a better bet. So if you have your own tales of getting lost, come and share them with me at our Facebook group for Thoughtful Travellers. Just search for Thoughtful Travellers in Facebook, or there's a link in the show notes as well. The show notes for this episode are at notaballerina.com/142. And of course, a huge thank you to my guests who are happy to share their tales of getting lost and how much fun it usually was. First up, I chatted with Lucas Peters, and you can find him at his website, lucaspeters.com. I next chatted with Michela from Rocky Travel, and so you can find her at rockytravel.net. And finally, I chatted with Erin from Explore with Erin, and you can find all of her stuff at explorewitherin.com. Thank you very, very much for listening. This has been another episode of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Show notes and other information are at notaballerina.com/podcast. Join me again soon for another chat about why we travel. Bye for now.